Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. And today's episode is One Piece East Blue Saga Baretti Arc, episode 29, Outcome of a Deadly Battle, The Inner Spear. The episode in a nutshell is just a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So in this episode, we have Luffy and Craig still locked in their fight. End of last episode, Luffy broke the spear. It was very dramatic. Now he's at the top of the mast, and Craig is freaking out about losing and having his spear broken. So then he breaks the mask. Luffy on the way down does his Gomu Gomu Gatling before he then does a bazooka. And when he does the bazooka, Don Craig basically is like, I refuse to lose. He puts a bunch of little mini bombs into the water, and basically this is going to destroy Luffy's foothold, which is going to make him have to basically fall into the water. And then Luffy, of course, does another bazooka, which breaks off all of Craig's armor, but he still has one last trick up his sleeve, and he uses a steel net to trap Luffy in order to ensure that he does come into the water, and as an anchor he will definitely lose. Luffy manages to get his hands and legs free from the net and basically twists himself all up, grabbing Don Craig, and then he basically spins him around and slams him into the deck of Baretti restaurant, which he calls his Gamma Gamma no Giant Gavel, and this basically renders Don Craig unconscious. However, Luffy is still trapped in the net, so he then falls into the water and starts to sink. We then have Gin having some sort of existential crisis because how could Don Craig lose? He's so strong. You know, he's the person he chose to follow. He had so much belief in him. Oh my goodness, oh my gracious. And then Zeph and Sanji are, talking about, how impactful Luffy is, and then Zeph casually mentions the fact that people with devil fruits are anchors, and Sanji might want to go ahead and save them. So then Sanji, of course, rushes into the water, swims down, manages to get Luffy free of the net. They start swimming back up. As they're swimming up, Sanji sees a school of fish swim above him, and this brings back all of his memories of his ambition of all blue. He then has his flashbacks to Zoro's fight against Mihawk, Zeph's commentary on Luffy's fight against Don Craig and what he had seen of the fight with Don Craig, and this basically reawakens his memory of what his own life ambition had been, and he then does eventually get Luffy up to the deck. Luffy is unconscious and he's at first panicking, thinking that he was too late, telling Luffy not to die. He said he wasn't going to die. But then Luffy snores and Sanji realizes that he's just asleep. So he relaxes back, and this is, of course, when Gin comes out to settle down a sleepwalking Don Craig who is having a dream of the fight where he's winning, and he basically renders him fully unconscious at this point, and basically says that he's no longer going to be loyal to Don Craig, who he was so loyal to, he was willing to commit suicide, and even though he has only a couple hours left to live, he's reaffirmed his want of being a pirate, and he and Don Craig are going to go and in the next couple hours start fresh. And so Sanji then has Patty and Carney bring them a boat. All of the Don Craig pirates and Gin pile onto this boat to the point where it's like overstuffed and almost sinking. And he then says farewell, goes on his way, and the cooks are there claiming credit, being, even though all they did really was like swim in the water, they're like, don't forget that we are fighting cooks and Baretti's super strong and don't you come back now. And then we move over to Nami, who we haven't seen for a few episodes, and she's at the front of the Going Merry, and she comments to herself how nice the boys were, and how she hopes that if they do ever run into each other again, they'll allow her to join them again, before she then starts to cry, and then she hugs herself and says that she wants to be free. And that is where this episode ends. So now that we have been reminded about what happened in the episode, it is now time to rank the episode, and as always, we'll be ranking on our mostly objective ranking, followed by the personal ranking. So for our mostly objective rank values, I highlighted those I felt applied to this episode, and first we have worth 2 points, our single arc main character growth, which of course was Don Craig's newest attacks. He uses a flamethrower against the mast when Luffy is is falling, and then he also uses the steel net, and I guess he does use the mini bombs as well, which are all worth 2 points, as I said. Then we have our resolved battle, also worth 2 points, bringing us to 4, which is, of course, so last episode, they were very misleading, saying conclusion to the fight, but now this episode, instead of saying conclusion, they're saying, oh, the outcome. But in this case, it actually was the outcome of the fight, and Craig versus Luffy concludes with, of course, Luffy being the winner. Then we get 3 points for a impactful or memorable moment line slash etc. And this one is where the bias and judgment comes into play, I would say, because it's very memorable to me. But then when I tried to Google to find an actual picture of it, could not find it. So obviously it's not to anybody else, but it's something that I remember throughout like the entire series because I thought it was like just a very nice sentiment. So when Luffy falls into the water, his hat falls onto the deck and it's laying there. And then when Sanji jumps in to save him, basically becoming almost like part of the crew at that point, acknowledging that, like he has to go save Luffy, he like takes off his jacket and his shoes and they land kind of stylistically near the hat to kind of show like the pair of them are now a pair, at least in my mind. And it was stylistically done, and it's an image that sticks into my head. And because it sticks in my head and is so memorable to me, I am counting it towards the points, though like I said, when I tried to Google the image, could not find it. Therefore, I don't think it was meaningful or memorable to anybody else, but it's my list. So that is worth 3 points for me, bringing us to 7 out of 10. And then we, of course, round off with our final 4 points, which is our multi-arc main character growth. And this is Luffy's new attack, the Gamu Gamu Giant Gavel, which he uses to ultimately defeat Don Craig. And that is bringing us up to 11 out of 10. However, of course, 10 is our maximum score, so it is a 10 out of 10 episode. So our arc ranking so far, as always, when more than one episode has the same ranking on our mostly objective, we rank in the episode airing order, which means in first place is still Past of the Three Swords, The Promise Between Zoro and Kuna, The Famous Cook, Sanji of the Floating Restaurant, Hawkeye's Mihawk, Swordsman Zoro Falls into the Sea, Zeph and Sanji's Ambition, The Sea of Dreams All Blue. This episode comes in fifth, Outcome of a Deadly Battle, The Inner Spear. Then we have the emergence of the superb kicking skill, Sanji versus the Iron Wall Pearl. An unexpected guest, Sanji's Food and Gains Grace. Protect Baretti, the Great Pirate Zeph the Red Leg. The Cold-Hearted Demon Pirate Fleet Battle Commander Gin. The Greatest Pirate Fleet, Captain Don Craig. And then in 11th, I Won't Die, conclusion, Luffy versus Craig. Bringing us to my personal ranking. So I will start with, I guess, what I liked about it. So first thing that I liked was that they actually did do more of a consistent fight. I mean, obviously, I mentioned in the last episode how it was like one move, everybody's reactions, a bit of conversation, move two, etc. This time they actually had like a few strings of like multiple moves before then there's a commentary or a reaction. And that to me is very important because boy was I annoyed in the last episode by the lack of multiple moves in a row because I just feel like if you're in a battle, you're going to be consistently fighting. Real battles, you don't hit your enemy, stop, talk to them for a bit, let them hit you, and then go ahead and hit them again. Like usually, if you're in a real fight, you're fighting throughout the fight. So I did like that they did do that. I like that we got some new powers. I like that there was a tense moment with Luffy falling into the water. Like I said, there was one of those memorable images that kind of stuck in my head throughout time, and that was in this episode, so that's great. Second half of the episode, though, basically was about Gin and the farewell to Gin, and Gin was a bit too flip-floppy, wishy-washy for me to really care about him as a character. I mean, he was so loyal to Don Craig that he was willing to die by poison gas on his command. And then in this episode, as he's leaving, he's like, oh, screw loyalty to Don Craig. I don't care about him anymore. I just want to be a pirate. Even though I've only got a couple hours to live. But tell Luffy when he wakes up, I'll meet him on the Grand Line, even though I've only got a couple of hours to live. And then they all pile into a boat and leave. And I'm just like, so he basically, the entire time Gin was fighting Sanji, it was, oh, I can't kill him. He was my benefactor. Oh, but I'm going to fight him myself. And if I kill him myself, then it's okay. But oh no, I can't kill him after all. And oh no, I'm so loyal to Don Craig. Don Craig said to die, I'm going to die. And then, oh, now I'm like, screw Don Craig, can't be loyal to him anymore. Even though he's bringing him along too, so really he's still loyal to him. He is just so wishy-washy, flippy-floppy. I don't know what Gin is, who he believes in, what he wants, nothing. He is just an enigma of contradictions because he back and forths every decision he makes. Kind of annoying, to be honest. But yeah, it annoyed me. And as a result of that, I ended up kind of downscoring the episode. That, and it isn't really truly official that Sanji has joined Luffy. I mean, I think that the image was there, and then we kind of get that like cliffhanger from Nami, but at the same time, because we are moving into Nami's arc now with her backstory, so that is like what the next arc will be. And so I like that they do kind of tease with it, but then like at the same time, it's like 2 minutes at the end of the episode. Did I need those 2 minutes? It's not like I forgot Nami existed in the last like what was it, 10 episodes she wasn't in. So yeah, I decided it was just average. I gave it a 5 out of 10. But that brings our personal ranking to in first. Past of the Three Swords, The Promise Between Zoro and Kuina, Zeph and Sanji's Ambition, The Sea of Dreams All Blue, The Famous Cook, Sanji of the Floating Restaurant, Hawkeye's Mihawk, Swordsman Zoro Falls into the Sea, The Emergence of the Superb Kicking Skill, Sanji versus the Iron Wall Pearl. This episode came in sixth, Outcome of a Deadly Battle, The Inner Spear. Then we have I Won't Die, Conclusion, Luffy versus Craig, The Cold-Hearted Demon, Pirate Fleet Battle Commander Gin, Protect Burati, The Great Pirate Zeph the Red Leg, An Unexpected Guest, Sanji's Food and Gin's Grace, and then The Greatest Pirate Fleet, Captain Don Craig. And so, our saga rankings so far. The mostly objective rankings are as follows. In first, we have Romance Dawn Arc, score of 86.67. Orange Town Arc in second, 76%. And Syrup Village Arc is in third so far with 64%. On our personal ranking side, we have Orange Town Arc in first place with 74%. Romance Dawn Arc in second, 66.67%. And Syrup Village Arc currently in third, 49%. with the Beretti arc currently having a score of 56 out of 120. And honestly, I can't remember, did I say Beretti arc on the mostly objective side was 75 out of 120? If I didn't, I just repeated it. All right, and then our final segment, series ranking so far, which is where we are ranking each of the sagas against each other based on their arc scores. And East Blue Saga so far, on our mostly objective ranking, has a score of 20 out of 80, and the personal side has a score of 12 out of 80. So with that, we've now rewatched and ranked One Piece East Blue Saga Beretti Arc Episode 29, Outcome of a Deadly Battle, The Inner Spear. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.